Good morning. Thank you so much for your lovely words at the beginning of the service. I feel so lucky to have been here for those. And I wonder if I'm getting interference from the handheld mics. It's a little squeaky for me. All right. And if you are any of the people that Teresa described, usually if we do a book, I leave the Words for All Ages book up here, but today I'm leaving some treats. So if you are any of those people, I hope you will come and fetch yourself some self-care after the service. And now is a time when anyone of any age who would like to get a better look from the cheap seats can come and join me up front. Lovely. Hi, William. Heyo. Hi, everybody. Thank you. So today is such a cool day. I love this day. We're here with Reverend Don, right, who has been our interim, our in-between times minister, and Reverend Josh, who is our brand new contract to call minister. There he is. Look at that. Woohoo! So some of you already got to introduce yourselves to Reverend Josh over the past couple of days, but if you haven't yet, you can do that now. So on the count of 3, let's say hi, Reverend Josh. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hi, Reverend Josh. So these are some of our kids, and there are more just liberally seated all through here. There's some in the nursery, like some of them had prom last night. You never know. So, and they come from here. And some of them have been coming to UUI since they were born. Hi, Archer. And some of them found us later, or they moved here from other parts of the country where they had gone to different UU churches, you know, as one does. And if you kids asked me where UU ministers come from, and I was a certain kind of grown-up, I might look at you in this particular instance and say, Akron. So, and just in case you were actually curious about that, this is Akron. And if you're looking at it and you're still turning to your neighbor and going, where is that? Here's a handy map. So the green star is Akron, and it's in Ohio, and the pink star is us. It's not pink, it's pank. So, but maybe you weren't thinking about geography. Maybe I'm being a little too literal, and you were thinking about something a little deeper than that. So let me see if I can help. So where do ministers come from? Well, the truth is they come from us. That's August Flynn right there. I did ask permission first, but Amy maybe didn't know this is what she was signing up for. So like you, UU ministers might have been born UU, or they might have found us a little bit later, and they changed and grew as Unitarian Universalists until they became like a much taller and very healthy plant. And I don't know if anybody recognizes this next plant. Does anybody know what that is? Oh, a lot of people know what that is. It's milkweed. Good eye. And at some point, they maybe started to look at what ministers do, and they started to feel what some people describe as a call, okay? And we're not talking about a call like this, right? Like a bat signal from the UUA. Like that's not really how it works. It was coming from that still small voice inside of us that we talk about sometimes in spirit play. And they felt a call to become a minister. And the first step toward that goal was to go to a special school called a seminary. And that's sort of similar to like maybe a college or a trade school where you learn how to do a certain job. And at seminary, you get to be with all these people that are asking the same questions that light you up, that make you curious. And so you might even say that while you're at seminary, you start to bloom. And when the time is right and you've grown and you've changed, back you go. From seminary to a UU church. Now, I'm so glad that went well. Now, I'm going to leave this very silly image here for a second while I point something out, okay? So I myself went to college to learn how to be a teacher. And I have to tell you something, although you might have already figured this out, because kids spend a lot of time with teachers, and also kids are smart. College was helpful, right? But it is not where I learned everything I needed to know about being a teacher, right? In college, I learned theories of education, and I learned how brains work at different ages, and I learned the subject I was going to teach, like math and science and reading. But when it came to stuff like how to react when a student wasn't acting like I expected, or how to supervise an assistant, or how to eat my lunch when people kept stopping by my classroom during my lunch break, like I had to learn those things by doing. So Reverend Josh has been in the doing part for a while now, right? Like he's had a lot of practice. But just like ecosystems, which can be very different from one another, each church is also different. So Reverend Josh will learn different things here. And even though we've obviously had ministers before, we will learn new things from Reverend Josh. So, what do you call relationships in the natural world where species have an interdependent relationship like that? Look at me putting the I in jet pig. Anybody know what we call that? Symbiosis. Thank you so much. Knew the bird watcher was going to be able to pull that one out, right? Yeah. Symbiosis. So that is ancient Greek, like a lot of our nature words, and it literally means a shared life. But there are different kinds of symbiosis. Did you know that? So for example, there's commensalism, which is kind of like a shark and a remora, right? Like the remora fish, like it hangs out alongside the shark, like it hitches a ride, it eats the shark's leftovers, but the shark isn't really affected, right, one way or another. And then there's also parasitism, okay? Do you know what a parasite is? Yeah. So it's something that takes and maybe it kind of, you're doing a really good imitation of it right now, Catherine. Maybe it actually isn't so good for the other person involved, right? So and it's okay to say no because our bodies are our own. We learned that in OWL. So, just keep checking your gut there, Alice. So these are tussock moth caterpillars, right? And like they can really defoliate a milkweed. And also like these are aphids, if I can get there we go. And this is not what we want our relationship with our minister to look like, just in case you were wondering. So the kind of symbiosis that we're talking about here is mutualism, where everybody involved benefits in some way. So can you think of a species that has a mutualistic relationship with milkweed? Monarch butterflies. I saw that hand crank up in the air again. So yeah, monarchs do. And we'll see if you can spot the monarch in this picture. Yeah, like they do use some of the resources of the milkweed plant, right? Like they eat the leaves when they're caterpillars, but they also pollinate it as butterflies. So, and it's not a perfect relationship, right? Like obviously a bunch of hungry caterpillars could eat all the leaves on a milkweed plant. And if that milkweed plant is not healthy, that's not good for the butterflies either. So, but when things are in balance, it's pretty darn cool. So, ministers begin in our communities and we send them off into the world, and then they come back to our churches and we all grow together. And maybe someday one of you will go to seminary and you'll start that cycle all over again. Ministers come from us because they are us. And I think that's pretty cool. And at this time, if you are in high school, you're staying in the service today. And if you are in elementary or middle, let us sing our way out to our small groups. May your mind be open to new learning. May your lips bring truth into the world. May your heart know love and your hands do the work of justice as you go your way in peace. As you go your way in peace.
this appeared in the Rochester Courier-Journal in September 1981.
The perfect pastor preaches exactly 10 minutes.
He condemns sin roundly.
But never hurts anyone's feelings.
He works from 8 a.m. until midnight.
And is also the church janitor.
The perfect pastor makes $40 a week, wears good clothes, drives a good car, buys good books,
and donates $30 a week to the church.
He is 29 years old.
And has 40 years of experience.
Above all, he is handsome.
Oh, thank you. The perfect pastor has a burning desire to work with teenagers.
And he spends most of his time with the senior citizens.
He smiles all the time with a straight face because he has a sense of humor.
That keeps him seriously dedicated to his church.
He makes 15 home visits a day.
And is always in his office to be handy when needed.
The perfect pastor always has time for church council and all of the committees. He never misses a meeting of any of the church organization.
And is always busy evangelizing the unchurched.
The perfect pastor is always in the next church over.
Like Akron.
Yeah, that's right.
If your pastor does not measure up, simply send this notice to 6 other churches that are tired of their pastors too.
Then bundle them up with your pastor and send him or her to the church at the top of the list.
If everyone cooperates in 1 week, you will receive 1,643 pastors.
And one of them should be perfect.
So ends the reading.
That's classic.
That is a classic, and thank you for performing it dramatically with me, Josh. I think that was the way to do it. I am so glad that we have this chance to have this dialogue with one another and to introduce you to the congregation as I am coming near the end of my interim ministry and you are soon to start yours here.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I'm so glad to have this week. I want to thank the search committee for a wonderful week of meeting everybody and allowing us some time to explore and do some house hunting, and it's been fabulous.
Fantastic, fantastic. So, we just heard about the perfect pastor. Rev Josh, would you say that you are the perfect pastor?
No. You know, whenever I think of perfection, I think of Shunryu Suzuki, who founded the San Francisco Zen Center. He used to tell his students, "You are perfect exactly as you are, and you have a lot of work to do." And I think that it's between those two truths that the level of sort of the mystical, or you might say from a God's eye point of view, if you will, we are all perfect, just as we are, every single person in this room. And yet, we know that ministry is impossible to do perfectly.
I know I have found that as well, that there are always going to be times where there are people who are disappointed or wish we would preach with more passion or more intellectualism or we'd be more pastoral, or, I mean, that reading really captured it. We laugh because we recognize it, right? So how do you manage the wide array of expectations that we heard in the reading?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think the first thing to do is firmly affix blame. I blame Paul for this. He says to Corinthians, yes. I am to all people all things, right?
Yep.
Way to set the bar too high. Thank you very much. No, I think, there's an old joke that some ministers used to tell, certainly in my day, that if you want everybody to like you should go sell ice cream, because ministry you're going to inevitably, as we heard, disappoint somebody. I think I take my cue from the Rolling Stones, who said that you can't always get what you want, but if you try, sometimes you can get what you need. And I think when you go through all those comments and think about what do we need, not just what do we want, but what do we need, then that's that's a more useful sort of path to follow. So rather than perfect, I try to be Kenough.
Enough.
It's a little bit of a dated reference, but still.
That old. So with being Kenough, and knowing that we're going to disappoint people and break hearts, I love how Sarah brought in the call to ministry, that it's not a phone call from the UUA saying, hey, you want to be a minister?
Right.
But it's an internal drive or decision to go into ministry. How would you describe your call to ministry?
Wow. Well, it evolves over time. That's one thing they don't tell you, is it changes a little bit from the beginning to the middle to, now. For me, one of the things that I keep coming back to in my call to ministry is a talk that Pema Chodron gave. I don't know if you guys know Pema Chodron. She's a pretty well-known Tibetan teacher. And she did a video where she was talking to Alice Walker, the author, who apparently became one of her students. And Pema Chodron said something that kind of changed the way I think about this stuff. She said that interdependence, that I in the jet pig value, that we sort of think of Buddhism or some other tradition, we experience this connection to each other in, going to the top of the mountain or sitting for hours in a monastery. And she says that actually isn't where you experience it. You experience connection and interdependence when you allow the suffering of another person to touch your heart. And it is actually in suffering that we find our connection. And sometimes we call that pastoral care. If you're going through a divorce and Reverend Josh went through a divorce, well, okay, let's talk about that, right? My broken heart resonates with your broken heart. And sometimes that resonance between my broken heart and your broken heart looks like going to Minnesota and hearing stories about families that don't have enough formula, and how do we get that to them? And it really did. What I was impressed with not only you and Sarah and all of our colleagues who did that was how it sort of blurred the lines that we normally have between pastoral care and social justice and all these things. It doesn't matter at a certain level. It's just ministry. It's my broken heart resonating with your broken heart. And, when we do our budget, we may have to break that down in a little bit more of a concrete way. But in terms of the call, to me, that's how I think of it, is how does my broken heart resonate with those of the people I serve?
And even a budget can be ministry.
Indeed.
Right? Because a budget is a moral document. It shares what your values are,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. As do your bylaws, as do all kinds of things. So, yeah, that's right. That's important.
Well, what made you choose UUI for your next ministry?
Yeah, God, there's a lot of things I could say, and some of you have heard me say this a few times if you've been hanging out. But I think the thing that impressed me the most was sort of the spirit of the founders, the sense that UUI is about multi-generational ministry. Kids are welcome not just in RE, but in worship and programs, and just everything from the jump is done with a multi-generational lens in mind. And that kind of creates a sense of identity within the congregation that really came through, certainly from the search committee. Did a very good job, I thought, of communicating that to me, and that really resonated. Because I tend to preach that in some of my congregations that don't necessarily follow it. So to hear you all preach it was like, oh my God, that's so wonderful. And there was like a lot of little things like that I was working on something in my ministry, like social justice. How do we restructure social justice to make it effective? And then when I read what the Faith in Action folks had done here, I was like, oh my God, that was so great. That was brilliant. You guys fixed a problem that I had been working on. And that makes me give that church a second look. When y'all have that level of creativity for a problem that I've kind of been struggling with, it's like, okay, that's where I want to go and do some. And there was a lot of little things like that, just like stuff that were like big projects that felt, oh my gosh, it's going to take forever. oh, the cats in Indianapolis have done this already. I can just go there and it's already done. So jet pig values are, talked about and are on the website, and that was important to me. And then I got jealous of you because there are all these great toys you get with the music program. I saw harps and clarinets and guitars, and I was going to tease the search committee that they buried the lead. They didn't tell me that your music was a cut above all the other congregations that I'd be looking at. But I was like, maybe they don't know that. No one knows, necessarily when you do that comparison. So that was a lot of what brought me here and what got me excited about UUI.
I know one of the things that you mentioned to me too is how playful we can be in worship.
Yes. Yeah, real willingness to try new things, to take the chairs and put them in a round for our Samhain service, or just sort of how music and sometimes even the words for all ages blend in with your sermon. I was concerned at one point because I saw so many. I watched a million worship services. I'm a big fan of Reverend Don's preaching, and I was like, my gosh, Dawn knows all these children's stories. How does she know all these children's stories? I got like one maybe on where the wild things are, but that's like it, So what you shared with me was, frankly, the best of all possible answers, which was it's collaborative. Just to pull the veil back a little bit. And maybe y'all know this, I don't know, but the worship associates, the music folks, the minister, the DRE, we all work together to create this. And so it may kind of like present as, here's a seamless worship service. It's actually a lot of hands and a lot of thought that go into that. And that's great, because I was like, is Dawn going to take all the cool stuff with her when she goes? No, there's some toys for Reverend Josh too. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Well, and I think, Josh, too, when we've been talking, one of the things that I've appreciated is that you have really expressed to me how grateful you are for the interim work we've done here. We have done a lot of work over the last 2.5 years. And I have pushed this congregation really, really hard, from solidifying policies to a mission and vision program to connecting with other UU congregations. And I just really appreciate how much you understand and appreciate the amount of work that I have done, but also that the congregation has done in this time.
Absolutely. I think, I mean, if you look back at the last 3 years, so much has been accomplished by you, by all of you in that shared ministry. And that, it's so wonderful when an interim minister sets you up like that for success. I was telling the board that interim ministers are sort of like a good cop, bad cop kind of thing. I mean, like an interim has to sort of push you a little bit. It's like, sometimes I say they're like the trainer at the gym. They push you to work harder, and you're like, I hate you. I don't want to do that extra set of push-ups or whatever it is. But then you go home, it's like, oh man, I'm glad they pushed me. I really, so I'm thinking of like redoing the covenant, doing bylaws. Bylaws. I know it's an ongoing thing too. It's not all done, but that was one of the things where the Akron church really needed work on their bylaws, and it was just like, this is a whole mess. Wait, that new bylaw smell they have in UUI. Oh, I love it. It's just like, it's a ton of work that Dawn has done for me that we all can now take and just rock and roll, right? We don't have to stop and do that. That important and necessary work. That's a huge gift that interim ministers give settled ministers. So I'm very, very grateful to you for that.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, and speaking of bylaws, I mean, I think one of the things that's most helpful is that the congregation is beginning to understand them as something that do change. And so it's not, I know in some congregations you change the bylaws once every 15 years and it's an enormous process, whereas UUI is really made progress in understanding that you can make a tweak here one year and a change here one year, and that it's a living document. And it's a living congregation. pretty
Indeed,
exciting.
indeed.
Well, what are you looking forward to most in this new ministry here at UUI?
Oh gosh. Well, getting to know all of you. I appreciated being able to meet with the founders a couple of days ago, and really being able to go deep with their story. Certainly, I had heard a version of what they had shared, but it's you hear the passion in the voice when they talk about sanding the floor in the social hall, and I don't know, that it's the energy and the emotion in that story that inspires me when I heard that sharing. So I look forward to going that deep with folks to the extent that you'll let me. I understand I'm new. I haven't maybe necessarily earned the trust yet, but I'm willing to work for it if you'll let me, have that role as your minister. I am always curious about people. I'm curious about people and their stories and what brings them not just to our church, but to this point in their life, and how Unitarian Universalism as a faith can help transform our lives, both in difficult moments when we need healing and in the mundane moments when we need that trainer from the gym to say, you know what, you need to be doing a little bit more, Reverend Josh, about giving to USC or doing something out in in other words, it's the pastoral, but also the prophetic, right? How do we change? How do we grow? How do we transform? Oh, that's a T in the JedPig. Transformation is. I was so glad they put that one in, by the way. I love transformation as a value in Unitarian Universalism. But yeah, I think that you got to balance both of those things, the pastoral and the prophetic.
You have been in ministry for 25-ish?
26.
26
In
years.
June, yeah.
26 years. And you've served a few congregations.
Yep.
We know no minister is perfect, but have you ever found a perfect congregation, and are you expecting perfection from UUI?
Well, not to step on the toes of your next sermon, which I know is about this, but I believe firmly in the quip told to me by a former, I want to say it was John Weston, who used to run transitions. He said, if you ever find the perfect church, don't join it because you can only mess it up. So, perfect. If I'm the perfect minister and you're an imperfect congregation, then we wouldn't connect, right? It would be like Emerson watching Brazelli Frost. He's just perfect. We can't relate to that. Imperfect minister, imperfect congregation. Now, my broken heart can resonate with your broken heart. It's not, we minister not from we minister by reflecting on our vulnerability and speaking the truth that our vulnerability reveals to us. Life passed through the fire of thought.
And how is that informed? Buddhism is really important to you.
Yes.
How does that inform your practice of ministry in this way?
Boy, in many ways, I would say it certainly nourishes my spirit, my grounding in ministry. It opens up a kind of different way of thinking. It provides new symbols and stories that sometimes can be surprising and relevant. And so I like to import or reflect upon, is probably a better way to put it, reflect upon some of those stories and symbols and ideas and make them part of the mix. I was a world religion major, actually, as an undergrad. So while Buddhism's kind of my favorite place to run to, I do tend to reference and connect with other world religions as well.
I'm excited that you'll bring that to UUI, because that is one area that the interim ministry has not been able to really encapsulate as much, because we've had so many other things going on. We haven't really had a chance to bring that. So I'm excited.
I heard a
that you'll
few
bring
sermons
that here.
where you knew you had some game. You knew what you were talking
A
about.
little bit. So, well, thank you for being here today and doing this. I have to share that this is a new thing that we even can do this.
Yeah.
In the past, with contract ministers or with ministry in general, the interim would end and the new minister would begin, and never the twain shall meet. And to be able to have this conversation with you, for both of
Absolutely.
us to be together having it
Yeah.
and in front of the congregation, is just such, I think, a blessing for the continuing shared ministry of UUI.
Amen. Amen. I couldn't have said it better. Thank you, Dawn.
Well, may your shared ministry bring new life to this congregation. May you grow together as a community, and may your ministries deepen as you forge new ways of being together and encouraging and ministering to one another. May it be so. May we together make it so.